Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much. Great to be here. I'd be happy to. Robert Sundelius is our co-founder, and we'll as we go through our introductions here in a second. But Robert and I are here today to talk about the next stage of consumer health. And Robert, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce myself. Terrific. Thanks, Robert. Gary Druckenmiller. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good backgrounds coming into this one. Gary Druckenmiller, formerly a GM of consumer experience at Innovacer. And prior to that, I was a founding member of one of the first CRM businesses for health systems going back to 2009, 2010, I think, a company called eVariant, which eventually got sold to Health Grades. And Robert and I are here today to talk about the next stage in our life, because I think we're just kind of blending care of health and healthcare now seemingly into our into our full embodiment of our lives. We're both co-founders of the Human Flourishing Collaborative and our anchor product Figgle, and we look forward to sharing all of those details with you today. Mm, totally. Yeah, I'll take first stab, and and Robert's backstory I'll mention is the backstory of all of our four founders, co-founders, in varying ways, and we all kind of come in with that sense of angst from different angles. We've got a scientist, a PhD nutritionist, on as a co-founder. He's had struggles. We've got somebody else who's in Canada, a gentleman by the name of Chris, and he's been struggling in his own right. So we're all coming in with that kind of nothing has worked to the way that it should work, or we expect it to work, or what is right versus wrong. So the problems that have kind of arisen out of that have several, and you use that proper term originally, Jared, the root, and you hear the means family talking about it, Cassie and Callie Means, and everybody's talking about root problems in medicine and nutrition, and so we're at that same level from a diagnostic point of view and from a care of health point of view. Bring that up to one more. If we put the label of consumerism on that, or consumer health, the words have to become a little bit easier, because the populace of the world don't really understand healthcare. And they really don't fully understand yet wellness and the power of wellness, because it's still considered kind of this, I want some kind of esoteric term that only a small portion of any given population have access to, which is entirely untrue. Couldn't be opposite from the truth. So there are four main areas, each of which could be their own company if you went at them individually, that we're going after all at once. So the first one is agency. So what that really means is, are you truly the CEO of your health as an individual at N of one? Meaning you control and wield all of your data. You can transact, and that means everything, not just clinical, wearables, apps, information you share out on social media, anything that has anything to do with your health. Do you fully control it, own it, have it stored, and can monetize it in a sovereign fashion? The answer to that almost unilaterally is no. And of course, it should be. The second one is literacy. So you heard me say nobody really understands healthcare. If you don't understand healthcare, or how to improve it, and some of the basic vernacular, how in the world can you set a path for self-improvement for you? And even in a more extreme case, how about your family? Are you setting a good example for your kids? Noting that those generations, especially Gen Z, 70% of them would rather get their information off of the internet than their doctor. And rightfully so, because they can probably find it easier there to understand. The second one is then incentives. Nobody will do what they really don't want to do. And one thing I should just kind of sneak in here is that our property is a B2C property, 100 bazillion percent out of the gate. Now, will it eventually find its way back into the existing conceptual past kind of system? Of course it will. But right now, direct to consumer the whole way. So you have to be able to incentivize an individual that in a way that is unique to them, not generally. Like everything out there today is general incentivization. No, I need to know you, the tool, the system, the AI needs to know you and your health parameters and health personality better than you do, to provide just the right incentives for you, Jared, for you, Robert, and I will then also be different. And then the last one, and arguably the biggest, is that the power of the internet's been an amazing thing for my career. It's been the entire backbone of my career, but it comes with a heavy hand. As a society, we are more isolated. We are more cut off than we ever have been. We shop at home. We surf the web. We do all of these things. We've created a digital caricature of ourselves that in some ways circumvents the natural character of ourselves. Hence the word flourishing, right? And Robert uses this term like oxygen. You don't want a digitally flourishing life. You want a natural flourishing life, or at least some better variation of that. Social connectivity is the big one that we're really, really going after. And to try to find a way for people to connect with each other on a common goal of self-improvement, to learn from each other, and to perhaps even crack the code. And we'll get into this as we move along into the product side, to crack the code of people like you who are going through exactly what you're going through, regardless of what side of healthcare you're having your issues on. Today, that is impossible. Or I shouldn't say it's impossible. It's a real struggle. It's gotten a little bit better, but it's still a struggle because of, you know, doctor privilege or physician privilege, and PHI and HIPAA keeps most of the most important stuff, or a lot of the important stuff, locked away, and it's contained within a few individuals' eyesight. So those are the four areas: agency, incentives, literacy, and community and or social connectivity, all being tackled at the same time in one platform, in one ecosphere, for the betterment of humanity. Correct. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah. One, if I can just swing on that one a little bit for 2 seconds, just as follow up. We all got into healthcare, sick care, medical care to fix it. It is unfixable. So if you truly recognize that, what's next? And you heard Robert continue to use that word system. We need a new system to slowly start to replace the old, and not directly. Like you're still going to have a need for the medical system, but this begins to then blur into that next wave of, well, is the medical system really solving, coming back to those root problems? They're not. Chronic disease continues to rise at an exponential rate. Childhood obesity continues to rise. Childhood mental health issues continue to rise. Why are they not slowing down if we're spending so much money in medical care? There's just something's not lined up there. So this is meant to kickstart that system, and and part of that exercise is is being bold enough and brave enough to step almost fully away from it and create something so unique and so original and so new under that kind of guise. People don't know what they want until you show it to them, right? Which is something I kind of mostly believe. This is definitely one of those moments. And when they see it, they'll realize and they'll figure out, they'll try to understand how they've lived their lives without it. So that's the kind of separation that we're beginning to see here. And we talk about what they've gotten wrong. I agree. Robert's right. Nobody's getting anything wrong. It's just that's the way it is. We've been told several times in our mission and conversations like this, you guys are thinking big, but you can think even bigger. That tells us we're on the right track. Like almost to say, you're thinking great, but you're not thinking big enough. And so this is our Expedia moment. This is our Zillow moment. This is our Credit Karma moment. Industry busters, and what do they all have in common? Direct to consumer, simplify the model, make it easy for people to redirect all the troubled ways of doing it the old way into a new way. Hmm, sure. Yeah. So the life score, and we use that term generically. So what we call the life score, this is my marketing hat coming on, Jared. Strap yourself in. um, we call it your figure. Just like so, Figgle is PHI, wink wink, GGLE. Your figure is PHIGURE. Trademarked, copyrighted. So your figure is a directionally accurate and comprehensive view of an individual's overall level of flourishing. So the first version of this, which is based in science, and that is an incredibly important statement to make. The engine driving this is a scientific engine written by a PhD who's been at this for a couple of years and basically says, without going into the layers, which I think we'll expose here in a second, well, I'll let it out now. So it covers the 6 pillars of health. So nutrition, activity, self-care, mindfulness, sleep, social connectivity. All of those are baked in. All of the data is baked in. And the life score takes from those subscores across those 6 pillars. So we're already scoring at the pillar level. And then those roll up to the single number because the populace of the world really just needs one number. Like your credit score, like your GPA, like your SAT score, like your Zillow's estimate. Just everybody's too busy. The populace is too busy to focus on all the stats. The 5 or 10% of the elite healthcare people, they got time to do that. They got the money to do that. The 90 to 95% that are metabolically unhealthy in America and probably the world don't have time to do that. They need easy buttons. So the figure integrates self appraisals across the 6 pillars, like 5 or 6 questions each, right? Not like a health assessment, like 90 pages long and you're ready to burn it by the time you're done with it. Select wearables and apps to start, but eventually it'll cover the gamut. And then other digital health data meant to supplement it, maybe claims data, maybe publicly available data from the CDC or the HHS, all kind of coming in to provide the most specific and N of one personalized health persona and caricature of you. These subscores provide the valuable and necessary insights into any individual in the world's life balance reflected in the singular and master life score. And it's meant to guide them towards areas requiring attention, improvement, such as diet quality, better sleeping, more routine, functional exercise, all of the above. They're weighted, balanced, and prioritized scientifically using a homegrown algorithm, a la most of those organizations that I mentioned before. That's how Expedia came to market. That's how Zillow came to market. But again, rooted in science with validated measurements and a way to display that in a UI that will be completely and utterly original and unique to the market. Nobody will have ever seen anything like this before. It all has to be original in order to be accepted. So the life score is the figure is the centerpiece to all of that. And then what flows out of that is everything that I kind of mentioned before. And you'll probably get us in there, but the things like the incentives and the literacy all kind of flow out of the ability to harness everything and hinge everything, again, for the populace on that single number rooted in science. Mm. Hmm. 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 So to answer your first question, does it fall into any category? I'm happy to say no, it doesn't. It is, but it is the culmination, and as Robert so eloquently stated, connector and infomediary of pretty much all of them. So from wellness to medical care, I'll even say in some aspects to pharma, because I mean, we talk poorly about pharma, but there are some benefits to pharma. There are. It's just where they're just becoming less and less of them as time goes on, unfortunately. Um, so whatever good is in any of those, and that is happening, we're serving as an access vehicle, an infomediary, because one thing that was supposed to happen, coming back to the COVID example, that didn't, was that all of the great work that was done to sanctify that deadly, horrific time in our lifetime, which we hope we will never see again, there was a lot of great work that came out of that. And in those kind of moments, what industries typically do is they standardize and consolidate on the best of that work to make sure it doesn't ever happen again. Has that happened? No. In fact, it's gotten 1,000 times worse. We are fragmented across DRG codes at the startup level, subspecialties at the startup level, categories within wellness at the startup level. Some organizations are backing in. Large enterprises are trying to back in and pretend to be a startup. It's absolutely an utter insanity. And what's happening is that we're all jockeying for microbes of the industry. And who suffers when that happens? When you as an individual cannot get a consolidated view of what's happening molecularly, biologically, esoterically, physiologically, pathologically about yourself, who suffers? Jared suffers. Gary suffers. Robert suffers. Billions of people suffer because everybody's just trying to jump in and get their land grab and get out, or stick around and wait for something else bad to happen. This could not be further from our mission and our model. And Robert mentioned we're a public benefit corporation. We have a responsibility to do good, to put right before wrong, common sense before inept logic or conceptual past logic. None of that applies here. So, no, we don't fit into any category, but we want to serve as the master integrator for all of those organizations. There's some great ones out there. You know, Function Health is doing great. You've got his and him and her, hims and hers, him and her, hims and hers. I think it's plural. Hims and hers. Good organization, good intentions. So there's some good stuff that's rising up, but there only looking at certain components of it. And there's a cost of entry that makes it hard for probably 80 to 90% of the population to say, I'm all in. So somebody has to jump and look way ahead, a decade ahead, which is what Robert and I and the rest of our crew are doing. We're looking a decade ahead and saying, what will it look like there? That's what this company is doing right now to ensure that the fragmentation and separation between all of these factions doesn't continue to compound on itself like interest. That has to stop. And it's not going to stop unless you put something in there that the populace can be like, that's the easy button I want. You guys figure out the back end. And if you can do that and serve as my one place to go and tell me and give me just enough direction to make me want to be healthier, like that's the trigger. Like people need to be shown something in a way that makes them want to be healthier. Like that, I'm really using those terms carefully. And we don't have that. It's all try this, do this, new thing, new tech, cool, cool. People are way smarter than that. They look for authenticity. They look for missions, especially when it comes to your life and to the life of those around you. So that's why we don't fall into a category. And we see what we're trying to do as be not the answer to everything, but the holding mechanism for all of these other companies who some are doing great work, some aren't, to find a vehicle to take their good stuff and get it to the masses in a distribution platform that will be second to none. And when we talk about distribution, Jared, we're not talking a million people here. We're not talking 10 million people. We're talking hundreds of millions of people in one place, in a community where they can share publicly or privately their details related to their struggles or their positives in their life, where others can learn from it. That absolutely is almost near impossible to happen today at scale. This is where it happens. And this is where the code begins to get cracked for some of these chronic diseases in a way that doesn't necessarily require you to have to go into the hospital 20 times in a week. There has to be a better way there. And we think in our community, with everybody recognizing their life scores and trying to match up and see what are you going through, what are you going through in a single place? Yeah, count me in. I'll connect with all those people. You probably have a story, Jared. I got a family story of some sort of chronic disease cutting through my family. And my sisters, I'm sure you got one. I know Robert has one. Everybody has one. But we can do nothing about it. Now we can. Hmm. Mm. Hmm. Mm. It's so perfect. And it's funny. You mean it's not funny? Well, it is sort of weird. We all come from the same base. We were all once in we were all once provider. Jared dances very nicely between both. But we've all been there. And what's the phrase that we would always use? At least I know Jared and I did because we're marketing guys. You're in your lifetime. you are 1% of that time a patient, and you're 99% not a patient. So think about what Robert just said. Now, why do we say, how does wellness fit in? Because the infrastructure and bureaucracy of the system has told us why. That's why. We're at the center of your world. Now, that didn't just happen overnight. That didn't just happen because of COVID. That's been a 40, 50-year run. And that's why everybody thinks that way. And wellness is this kind of voodoo pixie dust kind of thing that I kind of understand, I kind of don't. Yeah, I got to watch, but I don't know. And why? Because you now are being directed to take personal responsibility for yourself. And people are, in some ways, probably afraid to do that because the first thing they think of is, am I going to make my life worse? Am I going to make my health worse? Because the sick care system has been driving kind of a message into your head like, no, you need us. You need us. If we're not there, it could be bad. That's why everybody's number one, right, Jared? Everybody's number one at something. Because they're fighting for that mentality on billboards and emails. And when I was red pilled on this 4 years ago, I just sat there and I was like, what have I been doing? So Robert's 100% right. It's how does medical fit into wellness? So to answer your question, anything in wellness right now, all they got is, as far as an infrastructure, is trying to find a way to get their tools into the current healthcare system. A majority of more comprehensive consumer apps, some might have a health score, some might have some really cool diagnostics, some might have this beautiful interface. They're not direct to consumer, like MyFitnessPal or Calm. They are still plugging into the patient system because why? That's where the fastest money is. That's how you become a unicorn and IPO. That's the model. And guess what's happening to that right now? It is literally going belly up. Last year, you saw a ton of startups burn out. They're gone. You're going to see another half of them who are just struggling with the resources they have. By the end of 2025, gone. So the mentality is go where the puck is. Start building to the industry that's coming, and you have to think more esoterically and more comprehensively. And that requires a different vantage point of people. They are not patients. They are your everyday common folk, white collar, blue collar, white, black, Hispanic, whatever, that are just trying to find the easiest way to maintain a lifestyle that allows them to wake up every day and feel good and make decisions that make their lives easy and efficient and frictionless. And they haven't seen anything like that yet. It's just more complication and more complication. So that jumping ahead now provides a beacon for anybody to look at and say, if I live there, I can now take a direct-to-consumer tool that fits in the Human Flourishing Collaboratives and FIGL's ecosphere, which means our desire, our intent is to create more startups, to incentivize new entrepreneurs to come in and create more tools, and more tools, and maybe not as fragmented as we want it to be, but to do things that haven't been done yet because this new world, this new system exists. And that's how the shift happens. And that's why you need an ecosphere to catch all of this and rein it all in. And some of those partners could be biometric organizations, facial scans, could be urine tests. And it's a debate that we have often. You've got consumer medical, and then you've got clinical medical, and you've got consumer clinical, right? So you've got a lot of tools that would once be considered heavily medical in nature that are now starting to bleed more advantageous to just consumers doing them themselves. And we're right in that mix. And those are the partners we're looking for. So it's blurry right now, but we're trying to avoid the blurriness and put that beacon out ahead that people can start to say, I can live there. If I don't want to live in the current system, I now have a new home. I'm going to build something that's never been built before. I'm going to help the farmers. I'm going to help um, psychiatry services, these local health services. All of them now have a new place to call home, and so that's the shift, and it's not one that's looking towards the past. It's one that's looking a decade towards the future. Mm, that's right. He'll say it again. Robert, please go first. Uh, it's it's so simple. It's that sentiment. It's almost scary, um, and I mean that in a good way. The part of our exercise isn't just building some stuff. It's trying to persuade a significant amount of people that what they have inside of them, in terms of their ability to flourish, in terms of their ability to self heal, in terms of their ability to engage with others who look like them or don't look like them, but might be going through similar life ups and downs that they are, that they never knew existed, and to not have the fear to go after that with every ounce of their vigor, if not for themselves, then to set a good example for those that will come behind them. This is a psychological exercise in humanity's ability to thrive in ways that we once took for granted and have now lost complete and utter sight of. That that to me, coupled with everything that Robert has so eloquently stated, is the real true meaning behind this mission. The outcome is that we have to build something to make that accessible and affordable for everybody on the planet. So, yeah, I think we are attempting to boil the ocean for a consumer, direct to consumer good and idea and mission. And guess what? It's required. And only the most courageous and boldest people with an extensive vision that scales beyond the footprint of their natural lives would be crazy enough to do this. Somebody has to. And there's a lot of stop signs for a lot of things out there that we need to shut down medically and again physiologically and so on. And the ultimate message for anybody who sees this and wants to be a part of it and join us on this journey. And I look at Cassian Cali means, I look at our certain maybe factions of our government and other high powered individuals who are out there influencing the world. Let this be a new beacon for you to rise into and and allow people to all people to thrive, not just a portion of them. And that's a mission, Jared. It's not a business. It's a mission. Thank you. Appreciate it, Jared.